Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting episode of Solo Strikers, this series in which I try to beat all the gym leaders, Elite Four, Champion, or in this case Energitsus, using only one Pokemon per battle. I will also be including the final two rival fights with Cheren and Bianca because in theory those are the hardest rival battles. I'm not allowed to level up past my opponent's highest level Pokemon, I won't be using any items in battle, and once I use a Pokemon in battle, I can't use it anymore for this challenge. If you haven't seen when I first tried this challenge in Pokemon Scarlet, I'll leave a link in the description. Just know that my audio quality wasn't as good in that video. Just like last time, I won't be telling you which starter I picked, but this is black and white, so you can figure out by the first gym leader I fight. Speaking of which, we start this challenge by fighting Chili. My first Pokemon of the run is Panpour. The gift Panpour was easily the best option I had. It had the type advantage against his Pansear and can do decent damage against his Lillipup with Water Gun. I go first and use Water Gun. The Lillipup goes for Work Up to boost its offensive stats. I use Water Gun again and Lillipup goes for Bite, which takes away about a third of my health. Chili uses a potion, but I just spammed the Water Gun until the Lillipup died without taking any damage. I go first and use Water Gun again while the Pansear uses Work Up. I guess we speed tied because this turn the Pansear goes first and uses Incinerate, then I clap back with one last Water Gun, winning the battle. The second gym leader we fight is Lenora, and the Pokemon that I chose was Sog. Her first Pokemon has a troublesome ability Intimidate, and her second Pokemon has the move Retaliate, which turns into a monstrous 140 base power move if she uses it right after the Herdier faints. And that's without Stab. I use Low Sweep, which almost one-shots. The Herdier goes for Leer to lower my defense. She heals up with a Super Potion, but I use Low Sweep again, which almost one-shots again. I use Low Sweep one last time to take out the Herdier. Last out is Watchog. I use Low Sweep again, which brings her down to yellow health. The Watchog responds with a full power Retaliate, and I somehow live with 5 HP. Don't forget that Herdier lowered Sock's defense with Leer turn 1. I use one last Low Sweep to beat the Watchog and win the battle. Barely. The third gym leader we fight is Berg, and the Pokemon I chose was Swoobat. This battle could easily go wrong in multiple ways. He has Screech to lower my defense, his whole team can use Struggle Bug to neuter my special attack, his Dwebble has Stab Super Effective Smackdown, and so on. I straight up one-shot his Whirlipede with Air Cutter. Don't forget this is a fully evolved Pokemon I'm using. Dwebble drops onto the field next, so I use Heart Stamp to break it sturdy and hoping I can flinch it, which I do. I was hoping the next Air Cutter would kill, but it lives with a sliver of health. It hits me back with a Smackdown which almost two-shots. Berg uses a Super Potion, then I use Air Cutter again which can two-shot. I use it again to knock out the Dwebble. Berg's last Pokemon is Leavanny, and I one-shot it with Air Cutter, winning us the battle. Fourth is Elisa and her iconic Volt-switching Emolgas. The Pokemon I chose was Gigalith. Stab Rock Blast can probably one-shot her Emolga and can do solid damage against her Zebstrika. Her Emolga of course outspeeds and uses Volt Switch, which swaps it out for the other Emolga. I use Rock Blast, which just deletes her second Emolga from existence. The first Emolga comes back out and uses Volt Switch again, which brings out her Zebstrika. While I think smart and use Iron Defense, which doubles my defense stat. The Zebstrika uses Quick Attack, which does almost nothing. I use Rock Blast, which gets 2 critical hits and almost one-shots it. Elisa heals while I use Rock Blast again, which almost one-shots again. This exact turn that just happened, happens again. Zebstrika uses Spark, which does almost nothing while I finish it off with Rock Blast. Her Emolga comes out for the third and final time and uses Volt Switch, which almost kills me, but I use Rock Blast one final time to finish the fight. If I would have missed a single Rock Blast, I would have lost. Fifth up is Clay, and the Pokemon I chose was the starter I picked, Servine. His only Pokemon that I'm worried about is his iconic Excadrill. I can't hit it super effectively, and it has a disgusting base 135 attack. I use Reflect first because these ground types hit hard while the Krokorok hits a critical hit Bulldoze that lowers my speed. Now the Krokorok outspeeds and uses Crunch, which thankfully doesn't lower my defense. I use Growth to boost my offensive stats. He uses Crunch again, and this time it does indeed get the defense drop, but I respond with a Mega Drain which almost takes out the Krokorok in one hit. Clay heals, then I use Mega Drain which almost takes out the Krokorok in one hit again. Clay heals again while I use Growth again and my Reflect wears off. The Krokorok uses Swagger which boosts my attack but also confuses me, but that's fine because I had a Person Berry equipped which cures my confusion. So he basically gave me a free Swords Dance. Since my Reflect wore off, I used Reflect again for the extra defense. Krokorok uses Crunch again and gets another defense drop, then I finally kill it with Leaf Blade. Clay sends out his trademark Excadrill and uses Rock Slide, but it thankfully missed. Then I use Leaf Blade, which almost takes out the Excadrill in one hit. He goes for yet another Rock Slide, which also misses, while I finish it off with Leaf Blade. Damn, I guess I was worried about his Excadrill for no reason. His last Pokemon is Palpitoad, but it throws the game by using Aqua Ring. I of course one-shot it. The match is ours. 6th is Skyla, and the one Pokemon I chose was Zebstrika. Seeing how her entire team was weak to electric, Zebstrika was the perfect choice. I outspeed and use Flame Charge to make sure I outspeed her whole team. Swoobat responds with the Heart Stamp. I use a magnet boosted super effective Spark on the Swoobat, which easily finishes it off. Next out is her Unfezant, which surprisingly gets taken out in one hit by Spark. I thought it would at least live with a sliver of health. Her last Pokemon is Swanna, which unsurprisingly dies in one hit. Definitely the easiest win thus far. The 7th gym leader is Bryson, and you won't believe what Pokemon I chose. Yeah, Simisear has high speed, decent special attack, and can learn Fire Blast via level up. It was surprisingly the best Pokemon to choose. I outspeed and use Fire Blast, but it missed, and Vanillish responds with a Mirror Shot that does Igglybuff damage. I use Fire Blast again, and it hits this time, knocking out the Vanillish. Bryson sends out Beartic next, but it also gets a one-shot by Fire Blast. His last Pokemon is Cryogonal, but Fire Blast was just too much for the poor Snowflake. You guys hate on Simisear, but he just soloed a gym leader and only lost 10% of his health while doing it. Next up is the last rival fight with Bianca. I know her team doesn't look all too special, but every time I play this game, this fight in particular gives me such a hard time for one reason or another. I don't know why. The Pokemon I chose was Sawsbuck. It can boost its stats with Work Up, get Stab Horn Leech, and can learn Jump Kick, which will be pivotal for taking out her lead Intimidate Stoutland. The first 4 turns we both use Work Up. The 5th turn I decide to stop setting up and use Jump Kick to effortlessly take out the Stoutland. Her next Pokemon is Simisear, and I was praying a +3 return would be enough to take it out in one hit. And fortunately it was. 3rd is Samurott, which just dies to a Horn Leech. Bianca's last Pokemon is her trademark Musharna, which surprisingly gets knocked out by 1 return. This battle took multiple attempts because her Stoutland kept knocking out my Sawsbuck before I could get all my necessary stat boosts, and I'm just glad it's finally all behind me. The 8th and final gym leader is Drayden. I really wanted to use Beartic since I'm a big Beartic fan, but I was worried that it couldn't pull it off because Drayden's Druddigon could use super effective Revenge, so I instead used Conkeldurr. All of Drayden's Pokemon are physical attackers, which is perfect for Conkeldurr since it can boost up with Bulk Up. It also has Stab Drain Punch to deal damage and heal itself at the same time. The Fracture of course outspeeds and uses Dragon Dance while I boost up as well with Bulk Up. We both do the same thing 2 more times. The Fracture uses Dragon Dance a 4th time while I one-shot it with Drain Punch. Next out is Druddigon, but it surprisingly gets outsped and one-shot by Drain Punch. I assumed that Druddigon was faster, but maybe it was going for Dragon Tail. A move with negative priority. Drayden's last Pokemon is Haxorus. I'm guessing his Haxorus was also going for Dragon Tail because it gets outsped and one-shot by Drain Punch when it gets the fight. I know Dragon Tail was the TM of this gym, but when your best damage-dealing move has negative priority, that's not good. The last battle before the Elite Four is the final Cheren battle. The Pokemon I chose was Carracosta. Seeing how Cheren's first Pokemon is Unfezant, Carracosta should have no problem setting up in front of it as long as it doesn't use Taunt on the first turn. The Unfezant outspeeds and uses Detect while I use Shell Smash. I outspeed the next turn and use Shell Smash again and they use Taunt. They waste a turn using Detect, which causes my Rock Slide to miss. I one-shot his Unfezant with Rock Slide, his Simisear with Blizzard, his Liepard with Waterfall, and his Emboar with Waterfall. I'm sorry, Emboar. I love you. Now that we're done with him, it's on to the Pokemon League. I always like to face the Elite Four members from left to right, so we're starting off with Chantal. The Pokemon I chose was Liepard. The first turn I go for Taunt so it can't use Will-O-Wisp, but it doesn't even use that move. Instead it goes for Shadow Ball, which was a critical hit. My Citrus Berry heals me back up. I use Hone Claws twice, then Cofagrigus lands another Shadow Ball twice. After that, her Cofagrigus, Golurk, Chandelure, and Jellicent all fall to super effective Night Slash. I used to really dislike Liepard, but after this sweep, I have some newfound appreciation for her. Next is Grimsley and his wicked dark types. The Pokemon I chose was Darmanitan. I used Belly Drum Frame 1 to maximize my attack and heal some of my health back with Citrus Berry. Scrafty responds with a Crunch, but it wasn't enough to knock me out. His Scrafty and Crocodile die to Brick Break. His Liepard flinches me with Fake Out, but dies to a Fire Punch on the next turn. And lastly, his B-Sharp suffers the same fate. Now we're up against Caitlyn, and the Pokemon that I chose was Excadrill. I use Swords Dance while her Uniclus lands a super effective Focus Blast which deletes over 75% of my health. After that, an expert boosted Shadow Claw knocks out her Uniclus, Sigilyph, Musharna, and Gothitelle, all with one Shadow Claw apiece. I expected no less from Unova's best ground type. Last but certainly not least, is Elite Four's Marshall. No matter what team I have, this guy is always a problem for me. The Pokemon I chose was Mienshao. His first Pokemon has the move Bulldoze, which always lowers speed if it hits. That could prove very troublesome for me, so I gave my Mienshao an air balloon to avoid that for at least a turn or two. I use Meditate to boost my attack, as Throw uses Storm Throw, which does decent damage and pops my air balloon. Now that my item is gone, I knock it out right away with the full strength acrobatics. Same for his Conkeldurr and his own Mienshao. His last Pokemon is Sulk. I use Drain Punch to get some health back, which the Sulk lives through thanks to its Sturdy ability. It responds with a Karate Chop of all things, which does decent damage to me. Marshall spams full restores on his Sulk as I spam Drain Punch, which eventually knocks out the Sulk and we finally win. Now we fight Team Plasma's one and only king, N. Now as you can see, His Majesty is rocking 5 fully evolved Pokemon and a whole ass legendary. I actually had no choice but to pussy out and use the most skillless non-legendary sweeper in Universe Pokedex, Haxorus. Reshiram is forced out to the front of my party, so I have no choice but to waste a turn swapping out to the actual Pokemon I'm gonna use. Zekrom thankfully uses Fusion Bolt, a move Haxorus resists. I use Dragon Dance while Reshiram uses a pointless Light Screen. I use Dragon Dance again as Zekrom hits me with a Zen Headbutt, which activates my Citrus Berry. I finally decide to attack with Dragon Claw, and that one-shots the legendary Pokemon. Next out is his Vanillish, but it dies to Brick Break. Then there's his Archeops, but it can't handle even one Rock Slide. N's fourth Pokemon is Klinklang, but it gets one shot by Brick Break. So does his trademark Zoroark. His last Pokemon is Caracosta, which survives a Brick Break thanks to Sturdy. It snaps back with a Stab Stone Edge that probably does around half my health. N heals his Sea Turtle, but after a few more Brick Breaks, I finally put it to bed and finish the fight. And here we are, the last battle of the challenge, and it's against Ghetsis himself. In some ways, his team was actually even sweatier than N's team. I had already used the most skillless Pokemon in the game, so for the final battle I had to think outside the box a bit. Ghetsis sends out his cancerous Cofagrigus, and I send out my final Pokemon, Scrafty. If you're wondering what that last Pokemon is, it's Joltik. There was a lot of empty space in the bottom middle portion of the drawing, so I just threw him in there. Yeah, Scrafty can learn Dragon Dance as an egg move, and it's thanks to Haxorus of all Pokemon. After half an hour of brainstorming, I figured this Pokemon was the only one with a fighting chance that I hadn't already used. He was my last hope. Cofagrigus wastes a turn using Protect as I use Dragon Dance. I outspeed now and use another Dragon Dance as Kofag uses Toxic. It instantly gets healed by Shedskin. I use a third Dragon Dance as Kofag uses Toxic again. Kofag uses another pointless Protect as I go for Dragon Dance number 4. I can't start my killing spree until Shedskin cures my poison status again, so I go for Dragon Dance number 5 as Kofag uses Shadow Ball. The Coffin uses Protect again as I go for a 6th Dragon Dance while still poisoned. My Citrus Berry is my last saving grace as it brings me back to green health. If I hit Cofagrigus, my ability won't be Shedskin anymore, so I use a pointless Dragon Dance and get hit by another Shadow Ball. But thankfully Shedskin activates in the nick of time, curing my poison. After 7 turns of bullshit, I finally unalive the Coffin with Crunch, which changes my ability from Shedskin to Mummy. See, this is why I couldn't kill Cofagrigus without Shedskin activating first. Ghetsis sends out the big kahuna of his team, Hydreigon, but it gets one shot by Drain Punch. In fact, every single one of Ghetsis' remaining Pokemon gets one tapped by Drain Punch. This last match took multiple tries, but it was worth it for that W. And that's the end of the challenge, Solo Strikers Pokemon Black Edition. This video would have probably came out like a week earlier, but I had a sore throat which made my voice sound all deep and weird, so I had to wait for that to go away before I recorded the script. The TMs, Swords Dance, Bulk Up, Calm Mind, and Home Claws all being post-game was extremely aggravating, but I managed to think my way around it. It was nice to have an excuse to use some Unova Pokemon I haven't used in a long time, like Saucebuck or Excadrill. I still can't believe I swept a gym leader with a Zebstrika of all things. I had fun planning out how I was going to sweep each trainer and then putting that plan into action. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, then please hit the like button. It takes like 1 second. I've got a bunch more Pokemon content I want to make, so subscribe for all things Pokemon. This is Jay signing off. Don't forget to eat your vegetables.